Welcome. This is Damon Brown. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV. I'm here to hang out with you as a side hustler, as a solopreneur, and also to help you be a non-traditional entrepreneur. Happy to be back home. I was gone for a couple weeks because I was at TED, which will be the subject of what we're talking about today. I'm an entrepreneurial coach here to help you get to the next level with your side hustle and whatever business you might be doing. Bring Your Worth TV comes to you live on Wednesdays, plural, not just one Wednesday, Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free at the links below. Also, at some of the other platforms we're talking about, you can catch the show on Spotify as well as on Twitch. You see the classic episodes, quote unquote, over on Spotify. So it'll be some of the older episodes. And then on Twitch, you might be watching on Twitch right now. Go and jump in the comments, say hello if you're watching it on Twitch. If you know my background, I used to be a serious video game guy. Used to write about video games for Playboy, the New York Post, ARP, the magazine, Family Circle, back when I was a full-time freelance writer, and then did books about video games. So, hanging out on Twitch is kind of like coming back home. You see the gray hair, so it's been a little while, but it's good to hang out with y'all over there. I'm also author of the complete Bring Your Worth collection. See, I was busy traveling. I don't even. Oh, there's a copy. See, give me a passport. I'm out of here. The complete Bring Your Worth collection. It has almost all of my business books, the best-selling ones, over the past decade or so. Ever since my second child was born, he just turned 9. So over the past 9 years or so, and we have Built From Now, my personal favorite, as well as Bring Your Worth, of course, the name of the publishing company and this show, as well as what y'all made a bestseller, The Ultimate Bite-Size Entrepreneur. All of them are available in here. Consider a love letter to y'all, especially since there's 18,000 plus of y'all that have subscribed to the channel in the past 4.5 years. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, particularly over the past week or two. There's been a lot of new subscribers. Again, I'm Damon Brown. I'm here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. If you're not familiar with my work, feel free to go and check out the channel. Make yourself at home. This episode 418. So you got plenty of stuff to watch if you want to chill out, if you're on spring break or on chilling or just walking around taking in some of the nice weather that you might have here. It's pretty nice in Las Vegas, but a little bit humid, sweating a little bit, but it's not summertime yet. But not only can you go ahead and grab this book to learn more about my work and how I might be able to support you as a business coach, as well as my own adventures and all that stuff, but also as a gift to y'all, I have the complete Bring Your Worth Collection audiobook available for free for you right now after we talk. But right now, at the link below, audiobook's about 8 hours. Again, it covers most of my major business books, a lot of the bestsellers. And that's kind of my gift to y'all. I know some of y'all, which I look forward to catching up to y'all back really soon now that I'm back at home. Um, some of y'all that I coach are traveling or you're abroad, or maybe you don't have the audiobook platforms available where you're at for various reasons. It's a kind of a crazy time in the world, so I hope you're safe wherever you are. If you need some type of guidance or support, consider this my gift to y'all. The link is right below. In case you missed it, it was a couple weeks ago now, but we had a lively live show. Bad with the puns today. A lively live show about pivoting your career. Shout out to Chris Gillenball. Shout out to Jenny Blake and other folks that I mentioned about pivoting your career. They're the masters of it. Definitely have guided a lot of people through that. I highlight their books as well as some of their best advice in this program. And this Sunday, I am geeked, one of the first standalone edited shows outside of our live shows on Wednesday. It's been a busy time over at the Brown household. So I haven't been able to do as many episodes as I'd like. I'm geeked about this. 3 power moves any artist can make. I'm not playing with y'all. I'm giving you guys the goods. I'm super excited about the editing with this one, and hopefully it'll be a step up from the many different adventures that we've been on as far as with how I want to share stuff with y'all, how the videos have been designed, getting the best core insights to you guys, and making sure that you're taken care of as far as leveling up your career. These power moves are about intellectual property. So important. And yeah, I just finished editing the video last night. I'm geeked about it, as you can tell. I cannot wait for you guys to see it. But if you're confused about what intellectual property is, how you can protect it, why it matters, and as a solo artist or as an artist with a very small company, feeling like that you don't really have that kind of power, I'm trying to help you out. It'll be premiering on Sunday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. If you're not subscribed already, you can click on the link below, or even click on the link right here for where it says this Sunday. So it should be right below, either in the comments or right below you right there. If you go and click on that, or you go to bringyourworth.tv, you can subscribe, and then you can hit the notifications. And then what will happen is that if you go to that video, the link is right there, then you can hit notify me when it's live, and then you'll get a little notification. I think it's like 15 minutes before it goes live or something like that. And it's a nice little premiere. It'll be fun. I cannot wait to get the feedback from y'all and have the conversations that come from it. Because again, my main goal is to support y'all. All right. Today's show, 5 insightful major things that I learned in the TED conference. I've been going to the TED conference. It's almost my 15th one. If you see the picture in the thumbnail, there's little badge things. What do you call it? Laminates, flare. If you're a Office Space fan, little flare based on how many years you've gone. And I had one of those joints, like a little chip on there, one of those joints. So I've been going to TED. I got invited in 2011, I want to say. Yeah, got invited in 2011. And I mean, the amount that my life has evolved was that 14 years since I started going to TED. I need to pull up some old pictures because, like, yeah, it feels like I was a totally different person. One of the things that I like about the TED conference, let me take a step back real quick. If you're not familiar with the TED conference, it basically is this annual conference. There's one TED conference, one main one, annual conference that happens in some international city. They've traditionally they were doing it in Southern California for a long time, which is when I started going. And then about I think it's the 10th year. No, I'm sorry, next year will be the 10th year. So for the past 9 years that I've been going, they actually moved it up to Vancouver, Canada, and British Columbia. Loved it up there. I really like the city a lot. You all have a beautiful city, and I love seafood as well as the different foods that are there. So I always have a really good time. Everyone gets together. It's 5 days, Monday night to basically Tuesday. I'm sorry, Friday afternoon, and it's essentially 88 talks. And there's a big stage there, which can hold about 1,000 people, maybe a little bit less, about 800 people. And then there's a big campus within a building, but it's a big campus where you can get food, you can get drinks, you can hang out, you can have the conversations. Again, if you see the thumbnail, that's a candid picture of me when I was talking to someone on that Tuesday when it was the first full day of TED. And we all hang out and we talk about things from the du jour of the moment. Um, for instance, this year it was AI. A couple years ago it was the metaverse and crypto. A few years before that it was social media. So there's that aspect, and there's also the timeless ones. We talked a lot about that with all the conversations that I had. That's one of the reasons why I didn't have a live show last week because I was so tired from talking, and I needed to gather my thoughts and all that stuff. But it's very much a whirlwind. Again, this was like my 11th or 12th year or something because I missed a year or two because of family things. So it's like my 10th or 11th TED, and it never, it's always a whirlwind. And so there's the main TED, and there's also things called TEDx's, which you might be familiar with. TEDx's are kind of like franchises. They're independent local TEDs. So I've spoken at TEDx Toledo back when I lived in Toledo. Shout out to y'all. Shout out to Will and the rest of the crew. I've spoken at TEDx Jackson, which was the first one that they had in Mississippi. So shout out to all the great folks in Mississippi. Appreciate y'all, et cetera, et cetera. So there's different local ones as well. There's like 3 or 4 here in Las Vegas because we're in a relatively big city. But if you're in a smaller city, you might have a small TEDx there too. And so you can attend those at any time. It's much harder to get into the main TED. Number one, you can apply, but usually end up getting invited. Number one. And number two, it's only about 1,500 people. When you think about something as intense as TED and the so-called, quote unquote TED Talks that are now a brand in itself, then it's relatively intimate conference. And of course, you have I guess I call myself a veteran at this point. You have folks like myself that have been going there for 10 years. Plus, I know folks that were there when Chris Anderson first started leading TED, because it wasn't his organization, but he started leading it 25 years ago this year. Speaking of that, one of the reasons why this TED is different is, number one, Chris Anderson, who I've gotten to know, is actually retiring. So this year, I believe it was this year, it was his 25th year. So he's been doing it for 25 years. Like, he started leading TED before I had a family. I might have still been in grad school, but he started a while ago. And so now, he's like, all right, we're going to kind of wrap it up, at least with his part, that part of the leadership. That's number one. Number two, as they announced at the conference, they're actually moving again, and they're going to be moving back to America. So they're going to have their last one in Vancouver next year. Not sure if I'm attending or not, but next year. And then the year after that, what is that, 2027? They're actually going to be moving back to America. They started here in America. And we haven't found out where it's going to be, but y'all will be the first to know. If you want more insight as far as like the background on TED and what it means and so forth, you can go ahead and go to my weekly newsletter. It's free. And I had a newsletter today about what I learned at TED, as well as one that was kind of retrospective of the conference that I did a week or two ago as I was heading to the event. You go to joindavid.me, you can join for free. And it's a newsletter that comes out every Wednesday at 5:55 a.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. All right, so 88 things. This, they give you a lot of stuff. But the book is like glowing. I think it's a shine from the camera. Forgive me if you can't read it. Read it. Humanity Reimagined, or Reimagine Humanity. And there's all the different people that were in there. There were 5 talks that really resonate with me, 5 talks that pulled at my emotions, that really scared me. I'm gonna keep it 100% with y'all. And I'm glad I was there, because I was like, whoa, that's some wild stuff. I'm glad I came, because I would like to know about this. And so you literally have people from all over the world. One last note on this: not every TED talk that's done on stage, again, it's about 88 of them, not everyone is open to the public. So you can go to TED.com right now. I don't even need to get you the link. You can go to TED.com right now. You can buy a pass, and you can have the same, of course, streamed, but the same live experience that I have, even though I was there in person. Right? It's called a simulcast. Right? Again, simultaneous casting. Right? So you can do that, and you can catch everything. The people flubbing on stage. I've been on the TED stage before, so I get it. People flubbing on stage and all that stuff, and people crying sometimes, and they need to take a break, because there's some intense stuff. We're about to get into it as far as why, right? But of those 88 talks, literally only a handful of them, maybe I'd say a dozen, so 2.5 hands, end up going on TED.com or otherwise being made public. So in other words, when there's the main TED conference, again, that happened a couple weeks ago, that happens, you say, oh, okay, I saw this TED talk at this TED conference. You're getting like a fraction of the experience. So there's TED talks that, for whatever reason, aren't shared in that kind of way. I'm sure it has to do with like demographics. I'm sure it has to do with how it resonates with the audience. I'm sure it has to do with some cases with stuff that's internal with the conference. I don't know. It's one of those insights I don't have any insight on. But some of these talks are available now. Some of them will never be available at TED.com or wherever you get your TED Talks. But if you go to TED.com and order one of the passes, I'm not an affiliate. This isn't me trying to get you over there, just telling you how it works. If you want to get the whole experience and experience what I experienced, go to TED.com. You can get a pass. The prices can change, but I think a pass to watch the streaming is maybe a couple $100, which is worth it. I'm not even going to tell you what it costs to get to TED. I'm not even going to explain. Nope, not going to do it. You go to TED.com and find out how much it costs for the conference. It's a lot. It's a lot. Not to mention flying up there and all that good stuff. So for paying 100 or two to have virtual experience, it might be worthwhile. So there might be talks I'm talking about here that are not available to you yet, that may never be available to you. I had to throw out that caveat. All right. Disclaimer aside. All right. So as a creator, as a builder, as a founder, as a supporter of creators and side hustlers and the independent, the solopreneurs. I can effuse about this all day. This is like my life's work. So supporting y'all and being one of y'all. There was one talk that really made me be like, okay, maybe the future of art will be okay. And that was Yancey Strickler on changing artists' power, specifically about artist corporations. Now, look, I actually had a chance to, I was so taken by the talk, and it was opening night. So it was that Monday night. I was so taken by the talk that I reached out and ended up talking to Yancey briefly afterwards. And I have a column coming up in Inc. magazine, Inc.com specifically, that is going to be talking in more detail about this. The link is below, but I'll show that to y'all in a second. So listen, Yancey is the co-founder of Kickstarter. Kickstarter, if you're not familiar, allows artists, creators, folks that are independent to describe whatever product or service they're trying to get out into the world and say, hey, audience, I think y'all would appreciate this. Did you want to contribute to this fund so we can make it happen? And based on the contribution, level of contribution to this fund, then they will get the product or the service, and they might even get special materials or special access. So, for instance, if I had a new chair that I wanted to get out into the world, but I didn't have the resources for it, or I wanted to go and build some momentum, but I can do a Kickstarter for, let's say, $100,000 and say, hey, I have a revolutionary chair. I'm going to go ahead and I think it's perfect for folks who are middle age, who have little kids, and I think it'll be perfect for y'all. And so I'm going to go ahead and put this up here. And if you pledge $20 to it, then I'll be sure and give you a shout out. If you pledge $100, then you can go ahead and get the chair as soon as it comes out because the chair is going to cost $99. If you pledge $500, you can get the chair a week before other people, et cetera, et cetera. That's how Kickstarter works. And then ideally, you go in and make that whatever the fund is, $100,000. And of course, it's your job to follow through with folks. Or if you're not able to follow through, then you give them their money back. He's one of the co-founders of that. He got on stage at TED and did this short, fantastic talk talking about how hard it is for artists to be able to make a living. Now, that's been the case for a little while. And also, that said, he's saying it's been getting worse because you have a Spotify where, I go record shopping. I'm pointing at my record table right now. I go record shopping with my little kids. They're 9 and 11. And so we'll go record shopping, and they'll want to grab their Michael Jacksons and their Princes. I'll grab my Miles Davises and John Coltrane's and maybe Frank Ocean's when it's on sale, and my more modern music, et cetera, et cetera. And but that's not how most people are getting their music. They're mostly getting their music from Spotify. Spotify is like a social media feed, and that is algorithm based. So if I'm really into, say, Griselda, specifically West Side Gun and Rome Streets and Stove God Cooks, if you don't know who they are, that's okay. If you don't know who they are, then I think we're friends now. And so if I go in and listen to them on Spotify, then they're going to keep giving me more Boldy James and other ones that are in that camp. If I'm listening to, my John Coltrane or my Miles Davis, then they're automatically going to start giving me the Count Basies and giving me the Chick Coreas, other folks within that jazz genre for that 50-year span. In other words, it's really hard to get discovered. On top of that, because of technology and other things, and we're going to get into AI in a second, there's a lot of things that are being manufactured, including music, which I didn't even hear about. But now AI music is starting to be all over Spotify. There's nothing per se wrong with AI music, but when it's not labeled as AI music, Then there's people who are actually making the music, like physically making the music, or even if you want to look at it like a DJ or a producer, even electronic music, there's some type of strategy to that. AI, there's not a human involved in most cases, aside from the prompt. With that said, there needs to be another designation that allows people to create. I'll keep it short because I have a whole column about this coming up in 8 tomorrow. He wants to start and is starting a new designation called A Corp or Artist Corporation. So a B Corp, if you're familiar with that, is a corp where a certain amount or percentage of the profits they make or some type of designation legally goes back to helping the environment or providing some type of humanitarian cause. So when you see something as a B Corp, then you know, oh, okay, let's say Ben and Jerry's. Ben and Jerry's might be a B Corp. Okay, bet. When I buy, a $4 thing of Ben and Jerry's, a pint, then I know that 40 cents of it is legally required to go towards helping homeless youth. I'm just throwing it out there, but something like that. A Corp is similar. A Corp allows you to get this legal designation based on you, and usually when you have a group of people where you're going to create this thing. And then when you create that thing, you can start this A Corp. This A Corp allows you a few different things. First of all, to get actual venture capital without having to start an LLC or S Corp or something that's way more, frankly, corporate. Another benefit of it is that you're able to get the infusion of capital from VCs, from angel investors, all those different things. But you can do it based on shares rather than giving up your IP. Again, I have an episode. I'll throw it back up here. That's going to be live this Sunday. That I'm talking about 3 power moves any artist can make, and it's all about intellectual property. What traditionally happens, this is why it's mind blowing to me. What traditionally happens is that you're like, hey, I want to go ahead and get a music deal. What does a music deal entail? Usually it requires going to a Sony or a Columbia or whoever, or Arista if they're still around, going to them. And they're like, bet, we'll give you $100,000 advance, which sounds nice, right? Everybody can use $100,000 for the next 5 albums. And that'll be against your royalties. And so once you sell enough albums, then you'll start making money. But until then, you got to pay us back based on the royalties you get per album sold, right? I think we got that part. The tricky part is what if somebody's like, hey, I want to use that single, that song that you have, I want to use this in the upcoming um, Doctor Doom movie from Marvel. Okay, great. Do you have a choice in that matter? No, usually not. Because once you sign that deal, then that intellectual property, in a lot of cases, those masters, when they talk about masters, that goes straight to Columbia, Sony, Arista, whomever. They're going to be making decisions as far as if it's going to be in the new Doctor Doom movie. You might get paid, maybe, depends on your contract. What Yancey's talking about with having an artist core is instead it might be like, hey, um, me and my band are making an album. Arista, did you want to distribute this? Great. You can get 30% of our A Corp. And we can split the money and all that stuff, but 30% of the A Corp. So they don't own the masters anymore. There's a lot of discussions that are happening, particularly with the movie Sinners. I cannot wait to watch it with Ryan Coogler as the director, and of course Michael B. Jordan as the twins in the movie. I cannot wait to watch it. But I have some upcoming stuff that's researching Sinners and how Ryan Coogler's actually getting his masters back, for lack of a better term, at a certain point for this particular movie because he has enough clout in Hollywood. What Yancey's basically saying is that if you're not a Ryan Coogler who Black Panther 1 and 2, those two alone probably made $1 billion for Marvel. He's in a place where he can do that. You have a Christopher Nolan, and I rock with both of them. Christopher Nolan, he can do an Oppenheimer and get a bag of money and own all the rights to it because he's Christopher Nolan. because he's Ryan Coogler. He can do that. But what about if you're starting out? What if you're in your proverbial garage? This is a thoroughfare to do that. And people were hooping and hollering at Ted. It's a relatively reserved group. They're hooping and hollering because there's a lot of artists in the audience, like myself. And we understood we've been jerked for our rights before. There's certain rights where I had to fight years to get them back. Yeah, these gray hairs just aren't from being a parent, you know? And so this is an opportunity for the next generation, not even my kids, but even the generation between it, for the 20 and 30 year olds of y'all who are on the come up as I was a couple of decades ago, who are saying, I want to get this out into the world. Now, Yancey and his team are working on a legal designation that will allow you to do that and protect your assets without having to start a whole corporation. It's called A Corp, but it's not a corporation in the same sense of you need to file in Delaware and have a CPA. So again, this is based on the conversation I had with him in the background, as well as what he talked about in his talk. Fantastic talk. The link right here is to him talking about his talk after his talk. He's talking about the talk. Hopefully the talk is online soon. If not, like I said, you can go to TED.com and check it out. And I have a column at Inc. Magazine. I've had it for several years. And I'll be doing a column. I'm told it'll be live later on this week. So I'm very excited. Be sure and get tuned in. Of course, I have many other columns before that. Just click the link below. You can learn more about that. Again, I could have just talked about Yancey Singh the whole time. Shout out to Yancey. I appreciate the work that you're doing. And a quick thing, this summer they're publicly going to let folks know when this designation will be available. So keep doing your work. Not you, Yancey. I know you're going to do your work, but whoever's watching, keep doing your work. And then maybe there's some cool ways that you can get your work out there without losing your intellectual property. I'm Damon Brown. I'm an entrepreneurial coach here to help you as a side hustle solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. What about you? Have you been in a situation where you lost your rights? How could something like this be useful to you? What questions do you have as far as how you can protect yourself with your intellectual property? And is there a way where this new legal designation that allows you to share your work without giving up your rights? How could it change the course of your career? I was already thinking about it, and I'm pretty well established, and I was already thinking about different things that can be done. I love to hear it in the comments, and for anybody that wants to chime in. Bring your worth Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free. Check it out on whatever platform you're into. Why peace is possible. Let me tell you, this was a talk. Aquella Shirels, hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly. Fantastic man. I want to say South Central Los Angeles. I can't remember if it was Watts or Compton or Inglewood. Forgive me, Aquella. Um, he got on stage, second day, I believe, third day, and he was actually one of the main people that brokered the peace talks between the Bloods and the Crips, the rival gangs in Los Angeles. They still very much exist, as well as many offshoots and similar gangs. But when I was a kid, and this would have been he and I are probably the same age, so this would have been around the time I was in high school. We're talking 1991, 1992, 93, in that era. We're talking the the Rodney King meeting. We're talking about the LA riots, which, and my dad lives in Los Angeles, so you know, some of those things I saw in person. And for this young man at the time, I don't even know if he was a man. He might have been 16, 17. He's one of the people that was able to broker this peace treaty between them. And yes, there's been gang issues for what's that, the past 30 plus years, but not, as far as I can tell, at like that was a peak moment in peace, particularly for African American communities. and there was enough stuff, and still is enough stuff going on that we need to deal with, like a lot of minority communities, figuring out what's what. His TED talk was talking about how it occurred, the work that he was doing now, specifically with crime survivors for safety and justice, as well as, of course, getting on stages like TED, and how violence, he chose a path of peace, and violence still found him. And seeing him on stage with his loss, and that reaffirming his need for peace was incredible. Um, he was crying a little bit on stage, respectfully. Um, I was bawling in the audience, and I don't mean disco bawling. I was crying like a baby, um, because what he was saying was so eloquent and so brave. Again, it's one thing to scope it out a little bit. It's one thing to say you should turn the other cheek. It's one thing to say, oh, okay, things are hard, but you can get through it. It's one thing even to make it relevant to a lot of y'all that might not have been through those kind of things. It's easy to say, oh, okay, well, I wasn't sure if my startup was going to get was going to come together, but I just kept pushing, and suddenly it came together. It's one thing to say that. It's another thing when you actually experience that, and then you give, as they say, your testimony to being able to get through that. The reason why I'm confident having this show and sharing this with y'all is because I had two startups while being a stay at home dad with my first son, while my partner at the time was at work. And so, and then having success with that. So I've been through the fire. So that's why I can confidently say, you can go through the fire too. You're going to be okay. That hits different when it comes from someone who's been through that. I can tell that Aquella has been through a lot. And so the intensity of his talk, um, I was not the only one crying in the audience, especially when he started crying. Everybody lost it. Um, but the bottom line here is that it was this beautiful reminder. We have Gaza, we have Ukraine, we got chaos here in the States. It's a lot going on. But it was nice to have that reminder where it's like some type of peace is still possible. But that peace has to begin on a local level. And that there's some great activists. I see y'all, some great activists that I end up meeting from all over the country, all over the world. Some of them I had dinner with, some of them, and I'm having a drink and then talk for 2 hours. Like great conversations, which is what TED is a great fodder for. The talks are kind of the what spur the conversations in between. And it all comes down to um, politics are personal, and personal is local. So even just hearing Aquella, as well as some great conversation with other folks, I actually started emailing and checking out my volunteering that I can do here in Las Vegas because it comes down to us. Yes, there's people in charge that we, depending on your affiliation, may not want in charge. There's political stuff that's outside of our control. There might be only so much money that can come in, only so much money that you're able to give out. But how you operate day to day, you have complete freaking control over that. 5,000%. How you react, how you respond, how you show up. You have control over that. Aquala's talk got into that. I'm hoping, I'm hoping that it goes public. If not, go to TED.com, get the pass. Just for his talk alone, you'll probably be a puddle in your seat like I was too. If you want to experience some of the TED Talks, feel free to check out mine. I have one TED Talk on the second stage of the main TED back when they used to have second stage. I told you it was a while ago. Super short talk, about 4 minutes long. And then I have three TEDx's that I did, two TEDx's for TEDx Toledo, and one, as I mentioned, for TEDx Jackson. They're all available on my channel as well as at TED.com. Just click the playlist right there. Each one is like my first TED talk was like 3 minutes long. So if you want to get a flavor as far as what a TED talk is and you want a familiar face, you'll get an idea as far as what the TED experience is. What about y'all? How are you feeling motivated um, to make an impact in the world right now? Or do you feel like you can make an impact? I guess I should start with that. Um, in If you don't think peace is possible in the world right now, what wars are you waging right now? What wars are you a part of right now, proverbially or otherwise, that you contribute to solving? Food for thought. Sometimes the biggest war is with ourselves. I know that battle well, my guys. I know that battle well. I'm David Brown, entrepreneurial coach, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring It Worth TV, live Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. On Digital Power. This is what a digital coup looks like. Carol Caldwalder. Where do I start? Number one, shout out to Carol. Um, I had the pleasure of meeting her just briefly after she did this talk. And it was like, yeah, we're in your corner. And it was a nice emotional moment for both of us. Listen, Carol opened up TED, it's first talk, I believe. And she's on the TED stage. And I was also in the audience. So it must have been, what, 5 years ago? I think it was right after the pandemic hit. I would say 2021, something like that. Back when they started, because it was a couple of years where they didn't have TEDs, because obviously the pandemic. But listen, she basically was like, look, these social media companies um, have they are doing too much. She's a reporter over in the UK. I think I want to say Wales, but in the UK. She's the one that broke the Cambridge Analytica story when it came to Facebook, now known as Meta. She's the one. She's the Woodward or Bernstein, if y'all know who they are. They're the ones back around the time I was born who broke the Watergate scandal and caused Nixon to resign. She's the equivalent of that now, 30, 40, 50 years later. She broke that story as well as some other stories, saying how Facebook and other platforms, particularly Facebook, not to single them out, but that's what the focus was on, were sharing this user data and also getting involved in politics in a way that they should not have been. It's a short version of it. It could be a whole episode. Did the TED talk on it. Again, I was proud to be in the audience. I'm glad I caught it. Automatically became a fanboy. What I didn't know, which is what she shared at TED a couple weeks ago, was that two things happened. First of all, she became digitally attacked, which means that her public information, which is called, I forget the term for it, but her public information was shared out online as far as where she lives, doxed, DOXXED, doxed. My programming days were way behind me, but she was doxed. I think it might have been multiple times. She was constantly harassed online, like constantly. She shared some of it. It was brutal. Like I think having a show was bad. Oh my God. I thought it was bad when I was a writer for Playboy. Stuff that no, she went through it. And most devastatingly, which she'll talk about again, her TED talk is live. You can watch that joint right after we're done, immediately. It already got 1 million views. It just got live 3 days ago. This is not a joke. Carol was sued for, I went to say libel. No, I'm sorry. She was sued for slander because slander is spoken out loud. Libel is when something's written. Luckily, my journalism degrees are coming handy now. But I believe she was sued for slander. It might have been related to the TED Talk, but I think it might have. I think it was more related to some other press she was doing at that time, and almost lost everything. And putting her home up and the whole thing. And her, mm, and she went and turned around. She won the case. Then came back to TED. Didn't talk again, and then talked about what happened. The bravery required for that. Oh my God! Imagine Imagine being up against some of the most powerful forces in the world, the most powerful known forces, as far as resources, as far as political connections. I know I keep bringing up politics, but it's important on this one. Imagine that. Imagine that. You almost lose everything, and then you manage to survive, and you do it again. Her talk was awe inspiring, and it talked about what happened to her. Obviously, that's how I know. Um, but also talks about what we should be doing next. If I get any more into it, then it'll be the same as the TED Talk. Go watch the talk immediately after this. If there's something important that you feel like you have to say, you do not need to wait for Chris Anderson, who's the gentleman who's in charge of TED for the next year until he retires. Um, you don't have to wait for Chris Anderson or one other people to give you an invitation. And in fact, you can probably do a TED Talk in the next couple of years, depending on where you're located. And there's TEDx talks all around the world. Getting your first TED Talk, a beginner's guide, is me, as much as possible, pulling behind the curtain. And I think it's about a half an hour long, talking about the details of how I ended up getting my first TED Talk, how the TEDx's work, and what to do and not to do as far as what TED ideas work. It's a stereotype now as far as with TED Talks. I get it. I get it. I get it. I'm sure some of the TED Talks that I've done fall into that stereotype as well. So I'm not mad. In fact, I find it humorous. And at the same time, there's some things that you just do not want to do on the TED stage. So consider it a primer. I ghostwrite for folks and I work with Heroic as well as independently and helping people get their speeches out there. And I ghostwrite keynotes and so forth. So consider me, your man behind the scenes that might be able to help you um, get your talk in order and to understand, like, do you have an idea that makes sense on the TED stage and what the next steps would be? So, as far as with the different platforms, have you kind of shied away from social media and and how much information you're sharing outside? Has it concerned you as far as how much power the platforms? I'm thinking TikTok, X, um, Meta slash Facebook slash um, Instagram slash WhatsApp. Does it concern you as far as how concentrated that power is, and how much that power is connected to the political process, not only here in America and not only in North America, but in the world? What are your thoughts on that? And has that kind of made you pull away from social media? I'd love to get your thoughts below. Jump in the comments. Let me know. Entrepreneur Coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise not just an entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Show live Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. Subscribe on any of your platforms for free. You can catch me at Bring Your Worth TV, which is right now the YouTube platform. You can catch me over on Twitch. Shout out to the Twitch folks over there. You can catch me on LinkedIn if you have to be on LinkedIn, as well as on Spotify for more classic episodes. Artist power, the bad side. If you want to see a wild conversation, Sam Altman talks ChatGPT at TED. Woo! Hmm. Usually at TED Talks, um, the audience will be they'll be interactive if people ask. Someone's on stage like, "Oh yeah, da da da," respond to this. There was some really dope, not dupe, dope call and response that happened at this TED. There was like 3 or 4 talks that were just so fun. So there are hopefully some get online, but like so there's some fun stuff. It pays to be in the audience in that way where you're able to experience it because you can't really get that with digital. Kind of like going to the opera, in person or going to the movies in person versus watching on your TV. It just hits different, right? But usually they're pretty respectful and quiet. You know what I'm saying? And especially, some of us in the audience are public speakers and/or have done a TED talk, so we know how intense that is. It's super high pressure. You know what I'm saying? Kind of like the Olympics of public speaking, if you want to call it that. So people are respectful. Kind of like going to a like the Masters or to a golf game, and people are being quiet where people are putting, like that kind of vibe. Not the case with this one. Mm-mm. Nah, we were loud. This is not Sam Altman doing a TED talk. This is Sam Altman, the co-founder of OpenAI, who created ChatGPT a handful of years ago, talking, having a fireside chat with Chris Anderson, of course, the current leader of TED. Chris is a former journalist, um, so he and I have similar backgrounds, but he's got about 10 or 20 years on me, but similar backgrounds. So we know how to ask questions. You know what I'm saying? We don't pull a lot of punches. Both Chris and I tend to be very direct, which is one of the reasons why, even when we've had differences or haven't looked eye to eye, it's always been respect there. He gave him a tough interview, and Sam didn't always appreciate it, as you'll see with some of the sarcasm and in the audience reaction. Two big things that I learned from this great conversation. Again, it's about 90 minutes long. Please watch the whole thing. Videos right there. This and Carol's talk, please watch them. Required viewing. Carve out 2 hours tonight, pour yourself a drink or whatever you're into. Watch them, please. Number one, watch Carol's. Number two, this is a must watch. Two really intense moments that stuck in for me. The first one is that, and other folks have mentioned this, so it wasn't just me. There was a picture of what looked like a Charlie Brown cartoon, Peanuts, Charles Schultz. Rest in peace to him. I always loved his work. So it looks like a traditional, what they call 4 panel, right? So 2 panels here, 2 panels here. It's like comic, something you get in a newspaper here in the States. Except the and it was between Charlie and Lucy. Is it big sister or little sister? I think it's big sister. I always forget their relationship. They're definitely brother and sister. And they're talking, and Lucy has a football as usual, but they're talking about something. It might have been related to AI. It's like, well, does AI steal things? Like, well, no, da da da. And it was funny, whatever it was. And of course, it was generated in ChatGPT. And Chris looks at Sam and is like, this is a pretty funny cartoon. Um, but for most of the audience, and definitely of my age, maybe a little bit younger, which I'm probably younger, this looks exactly like a Peanuts cartoon, except for the of course the words are different. I don't think Charles Schultz's legacy or kids or whoever's doing the cartoon now is talking about AI in the Sunday paper, right? And Chris is like, but this is from ChatGPT. So is the Charles Schultz, what do you call it? Legacy or foundation or however he has it set up, or like this is what the artists are concerned about because this looks like a Peanuts cartoon. It's everything like it looked like Lucy and Charlie Brown, which it wasn't an exaggeration. Like again, you can watch. They have it in the video. You can watch the video. And Sam kind of pauses and he says, "Well, I mean, we want artists to get compensated for sure. So it's kind of a future casting thing. In the future, we get one artist to get compensated. But for us, It's not copying. It's being inspired by Charles Schultz. And he went on. So that was a huge thing. And I think hopefully the audio is good. I think all the audience gasped at that comment. So let me break that down. If you're not in tech or you don't know what I'm saying. With the current platforms of AI, and let's talk about ChatGPT in particular, it got really aggressive with the imaging, right? Now I've used imaging before. I use Midjourney. You can go and check it at bringyourworth.tv. I'm not anti-AI, to be clear. I've used AI for some of my visuals for previous episodes, particularly going all the way back to 2022. So no problem with AI in that sense. What he's basically saying is that if you have a studio, uh, Ghibli, which I always screw up the name of it, but the Japanese studio that does the Totoro movies and Spirited Away and all that. That's Studio Ghibli. Fantastic, fantastic Japanese studio. Classic style. We're being inspired by that, he's saying, but we're not taking Studio Ghibli style. Yes, it looks just like a Peanuts cartoon, but it's not a Peanuts cartoon. And therefore, it's just inspired by it. It's not taking it. So then that ends up being a line in the sand. Yes, ChatGPT or whatever platform it is can be inspired by certain art. You think of like H.G. Geiger, which if you're a fan of like the classic Aliens movie, the movie Alien as well as Aliens, not so much the sequels, but that, or the artistry that you see in Heavy Metal magazine, which was a magazine that was popular in the 60s, 70s, going up to the 80s. My dad's an artist, so I used to see the magazines all over the place. Those have distinctive styles, and specifically those artist styles. Like I forget the name of the artist, but there was one or two main artists for Heavy Metal magazine that used that style. If you're familiar with the later in the 90s, the Eon Flux cartoon, not the movie that was made with Charlize Theron about 15 years ago. I never saw the movie. But no, there was literally a cartoon back when I was in high school in the 90s. I used to love it. That's the heavy metal style. I think it was the same artist. Like, that's a style. My speaking is a particular type of style. It's my South Jersey accent mixed with growing up in the Midwest and a little bit of New Orleans from my family. And now I live on the West Coast. That can be obviously duplicated, but it doesn't mean it's not mine. My whole point is that we gasped in the audience because that's a line in the sand of basically saying this can look just like a Peanuts cartoon, but whatever future plans we have for compensating artists for using their style and putting it into ChatGPT, you should, like Charles Schultz and Studio Ghibli and the Eon Flux folks, they should not expect compensation. This style, yes, it's definitely Peanut style. That looks like a Charles Schultz cartoon, but it's inspiration. And therefore, no matter what future plans we have to compensate artists and creative studios and copyright, it does not include that because it's inspiration. It's not the same. A bold move. From a legal standpoint, that is a bold move. From an artist community standpoint, that's a bold move. I'm not a lawyer. I just love law. I love law and make sure everyone gets their just due. That's that's one of the reasons why I love law. I love the details of it and how we can make it so it's equitable for all. This feels like a move in the wrong direction. Again, watch the video, watch the talk. Let me know what you think in the comments or in the replay if you haven't seen it yet. It's worth pausing. The future that I want to have with AI, and again, I use AI, so I'm not even mad at it. The future I want to have with AI is Damon Brown has a certain writing style, and I can give you 5 different characteristics as far as how I write. I've been a writer for a long time, and I've gotten lots of great mentorship and have 2 degrees in journalism, et cetera, et cetera. So I've got enough feedback to know what my writing style is. Okay, we're going to use your writing style Okay, here's a nickel for every time. Again, I'm the IP guy. This Sunday, I already told you, this Sunday, got a video premiering about 3 power moves any artist can make. It's all about intellectual property. I just finished editing the video last night, fresh off the press. It's going live on Sunday at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I don't play around with this. This is really important to me. And so I didn't I didn't get a note from ChatGPT saying, "Oh, okay, we're going to use your style that you get paid tens of thousands of dollars for to get me on stage, for me to write your book. This is my living." This is something that through all the, as we were talking about with Aquella earlier in the episode with the wonderful man I was talking that negotiated the peace treaty for the Bloods and the Crips. Like that's his story. I can't tell. That's his story. In that language, in my effusiveness, in my stuttering, in my lisp, all those different things, that's from decades of life and decades of creativity. Not to mention the tens of thousands of dollars I spent again on my degree from Northwestern. So if they're going to go ahead and say we want to be equitable to artists, but then there's obviously an example on the screen that's saying this whole artist style was jacked, as we used to say, was taken. And you're going to be like, that was inspiration. That's not theft. Then how can I expect you and your leadership and your platform to be equitable to artists and creators in the future? Not to mention, getting back to what Yancey Strickler talked about earlier in the conference, again, all the links are below, to the artist that is just starting out or that doesn't have a following. I got 18,000 subscribers plus hanging out with y'all right now. 20 million plus views. Best-selling books. So I have a little bit of leverage. I can have those discussions. I can talk loud on my TV show about how I feel about about Sam Altman's approach or what Facebook or Meta did. I have enough leverage to do that, knock on wood. What about those that don't? And so me as a creator and as a business coach, I want to support y'all to get to the next level. Y'all are the next generation. I've already had my best-selling books. I've already been on the TED stage. It's the second stage of TED. But you hear what I'm saying? I've already done that. I already got little kids. Like, I'm already halfway through this journey. What about y'all that are gonna come up? I would love for it to be a situation where the major platforms, not just open AI's platforms, but the Googles, the Microsoft, the Claudes, the Soras, even the Midjourneys, all that would compensate based on that. And if your company is getting what, a 10-figure valuation based on the latest round of funding, I want to say 10 figures. I lost count. But you can't compensate the people that you're getting the styles from. Is that the legacy you want to have? Because I'm guessing there will be other platforms that come up that will. The second thing that I learned during this really intense interview, again, highly recommend it. Please click on the link, is Sam, um, the gentleman that was one of the first CEO of Google, um, Eric Schmidt. Oh, I screwed his last name. Hopefully, I got it right. Um, and a lot of the AI leadership that came up, but particularly those guys in particular, it kind of represents the classic generation. So remember when Google started, I was living in Silicon Valley, and and the new generation with Sam Altman, who he just became a dad. I think he might be like 30, so kind of like the new generation coming up. Where again, Eric is like probably closer to my parents' age. Is that nobody knows what's going to happen next. Let me repeat that. When it comes to AI, no one knows what's going to happen next. The leadership doesn't know. The people that have these, again, 10, 11-figure valuations of their companies. The folks that are getting paid, yeah, I'm getting paid peanuts compared to them. Getting paid six figures to get on stage and talk about the future of AI. They don't know either. Now, brilliant people. I really enjoyed the conversation with Eric, actually. A couple of things I very much disagreed with, but overall, I thought it was very informative. And hopefully they have that online soon. It was another fireside chat, similar in the style to Sam Altman's, but a good parallel to this one. But I recognize that where it's like Chris was really asking tough questions, and it should be tough questions because there's a lot of power there, not just financial power, but also they're arguably the leading AI platform when it comes to OpenAI and ChatGPT. So what's next? Where are we going? Where are the guardrails? We didn't get a whole lot of straight answers. And at first I thought that Sam was being like evasive, you know, which isn't unusual. He'll say that himself. He can be evasive with the questions. He literally said that on stage. Excuse me, so I'm not speaking out of turn. And we definitely picked up on that. At least I did as a journalist. I'm like, oh, okay. He's not going to answer that one. All right, buddy. But what I realized is like, at first I thought it was because of legal culpability. But then I realized I'm like, oh, because you don't know. And unfortunately, shout out to Brene Brown. I got like a bunch of her books behind me. For a lot of leadership positions, saying I don't know is a liability. And so you're leading, arguably leading, definitely the face of the modern AI movement. To say I don't know, I mean, I was in I was on the stage. I mean, I was on the stage. I was in the audience. So maybe I missed it. I don't remember him saying I don't know once. Maybe you guys can watch the replay. I'll watch the replay too when I get a chance later on. But I think that's the truth. And so as we're working on these technologies, as we're trying to figure out these royalty systems, which is why I keep talking about this, as we try to figure out what this new world looks like, as we figure out what the next generation and generation after that is going to do, how we're going to make a living. As I speak, the American stock market and as a consequence, a lot of the international stock markets are in the toilet. What are we going to do? If AI is going to do what it's supposed to do and it's going to be integrated into the world that we currently have, or more importantly, the next world that we're going to have for, say, the next generation, those of y'all there in your 20s and 30s, generation right behind me, we have to figure it out, but we can't figure it out after the fact. That's all I have to say about that. What creators should know about AI in 3 short videos. This is video probably about a year and a half ago, um, when I was actually about 2 years ago when I was knee deep in AI, mostly the visual AI. Shout out to other folks who are doing AI. See you, Carlos. Um, and learning more about that as well as how it can impact creators. I also did a keynote about 2 years ago for the American Society of Journalists and Authors. Shout out to y'all about understanding AI and where writing fits into that. Anyway, a lot of information is kind of put into a nice little nugget right here. It's like a 5, 7 minute video. Excuse me. But if you share some of the concerns that I have, or if what I said has brought up some concerns, watch the Sam Altman talk. I cannot recommend it more. And then watch this afterwards, and maybe it'll assuage some of your fears, as well as help you think about those tough questions that we should all be asking. What about you? Are you concerned about the future of AI, um, particularly in regards to how artists and creators and companies and creative license and intellectual property are being handled in it? What do you think can be done better? Or are you not worried about that at all? You think it'll work itself out? Let us know in the comments. I'd love to hear. This is Bring Your Worth TV, live Wednesdays at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You can subscribe for free. As far as I can tell, it would always be free. So don't worry, you're not the product. If you get that joke, then you know Silicon Valley. All right. AI is a new social media. Woo! Heat. Heat, heat, heat. By my guy, Tristan Harris. It's Tristan. I think there's an accent in there somewhere. It's not Tristan, it's Tristan. Tristan Harris on social media and AI. He's the co founder of the Center for Humane Technology. Ted, please put this talk up soon. I don't make a whole lot of please. This is one of them. This talk was hot. He talked about exactly 8 years ago. Exactly 8 years ago. Actually, I got a chance to meet him 8 years ago when folks didn't know who he was yet. And I just liked what he was vibing on as far as talking about social media. He was a former guy I went to say at Facebook. And then he realized the direction that things were going in, things like dark patterns, which basically subtly forces people to make psychological decisions when without them realizing it, like subscribing to something just because of how the layout is set up, or it makes it feel like it's your own decision. That's called dark patterns. I think he might be the first person that mentioned dark patterns that I heard about. It's all over the internet now. Just Google dark patterns. Don't worry, it won't scare you, but it'll scare you. He left Facebook and started what eventually will become the Center for Humane Technology because he realized that there was a level of addiction that was happening, particularly with our phones. 8 years later, he's back on stage and he's saying that all the stuff he talked about with social media, people agreed with him and we did nothing about it. Now we have retreats where people are being helped with social media addiction. Now we're told that um, body um, dysmorphia, I always screw up the name of it, but when you have um, um, a non-accurate view of your body, and that can lead to eating disorders and other types of issues. That one of the reasons why it's been on the rise for unfortunately for tween and teen girls, at least here in the states, is because of social media and the perception of the body where it comes to filters and Instagram or so forth. Suddenly we're realizing that social media might not be that great. Shout out to again the homie Carol, who I mentioned in link. I mentioned the talk earlier in the episode. All the links are below that I'm talking about or in the comments. Carol talking about Cambridge Analytica. Tristan was on stage before Cambridge Analytica talking about some of the dark things that are happening behind the scenes at the Facebooks and in some cases at the Googles and other places. He basically got on stage and said, yo, a very similar thing is happening with AI. We don't have guide rails. At least here in the States, the Congress and the Senate, particularly the Congress, is frankly too old. The average congressperson, there's a congressperson here in the States who said they're going to retire today. And they still said the average, in jest, the average congressperson's age is 79 now. They don't understand AI. The only reason I understand AI because it was a concerted effort, but even I'm starting to age out of that. So there's certain guardrails, there's certain guidance, certain decisions that we could have made with social media 8 years ago. We didn't. And then we had Cambridge Analytica. Then we had the major fines. Then we had elections being thrown or influenced. I think something happened with Syria that, as well as some different places in Africa. Then we have the political campaigns. We have all this stuff here in the States. And then we have the manipulation. We have the dark patterns. Then we have all this stuff. And we're like, social media is awful. But AI sounds great. And he's basically like, look, I warned us about social media 8 years ago. And to give context with Ted, Mark Zuckerberg would probably be there. Elon Musk was there 3, 4 years ago. The so-called power players are Jeff Bezos. They're there. If they're not there, their VPs are there. Sheryl Sandberg, before she left Facebook, was probably wandering around the halls of TED. I just didn't see her. I met Al Gore a few years ago. Like, what? So he's saying this while the people are there. And he went through this 8 years ago, started his foundation, again, his company, the Center for Humane Technology, talking about ways to make technology more humane. Love the name of it. He's like, look, now we're saying social media is all bad. People are quitting social media. I've done whole videos about that. Just go to bringyourworth.tv. I'm not going to get on that hill. But y'all know I'm barely on social media, and I started that conversation 5, 6 years ago because of some of the stuff. In fact, Tristan might have been part of that, planting that seed for me since I had met him a couple years before that. Tristan's like, look, the same exact thing is going to happen with AI unless we set up these guardrails, unless we understand where AI is going. Otherwise, we're going to do the same exact crap that we did with social media. And it's going to be 8 years from now, we're going to be wringing our hands about this, that, and the third because we weren't paying attention. Again, we have leadership, at least here in the States, we have leadership that has aged out of understanding AI just as much as 10 years ago, they aged out of understanding social media. They didn't even know what a Snapchat was. There's a wonderful clip, wonderful as in horrific, of Mark Zuckerberg being in front of Congress and them being like, "Well, do you have to have ads?" And Mark Zuckerberg was like, "Yeah, that's how we make our money." Like the disconnect is there, and disconnect is real. Now that was social media. So your grandma, recipes to my grandma's. But your grandma might be on social media, but they're probably not on AI. It's a great clearing call for that. What we're seeing with social media and the pushback, he was talking about that 8 years ago. Now we're reacting to that way in social media, but we're not reacting to AI that way. Why is that? I think that's what he's kind of getting at. And I truly, truly, truly hope that they're able to go and put this online and make it happen because this more so than other ones, this is one that's super relevant and it makes an impact as far as what we're trying to do as society and otherwise. If you can go deeper into that, at least hold off something to do while we wait for the video to go online. Here you go. I just added it to the chat because I forgot to add it earlier. How to quit social media, your step-by-step guide. Yo, you don't have to do this. I know people that have wonderful business, some people that I coach that are not on social media. Their ticks are not talking. They're not Xing out stuff. They're not on Snapchat. They're barely on LinkedIn. Facebook is a memory. And they end up having more space to do the amazing work they're supposed to be doing. I talk about my own journey as far as unplugging from social media and how that actually improved my business. Not to mention owning your own platform. When you get my newsletter at joindamon.me, you can join for free. All the links are below. Listen, you said but a word. Bring back websites. Yeah, not somebody else's website. Mm. DaneBrown.net. Oops. It's not neat. It's just one E. Go there. I got a home on the internet. JoinDamon.me. Newsletter is gone. It is neat. Thank you, Carlos. You know what I mean? Bring back websites. Thank you. Bring back the newsletter. JoinDamon.me. Bring back the in person. I live in Las Vegas. I flew all the way up to Vancouver just to connect with people. What's up with that? If you're going to have those deeper discussions, if you really want to make an impact in the world, The less you have third parties involved, the better. Tristan's argument with this is really smart. And at the same time, it also applies to your business. Are you too dependent on social media? Are you leaning on AI too much to actually articulate yourself? No problem with either one of them. But it's kind of like when the GPS goes out or when your phone doesn't work. It helps when you can use a map. I'm entrepreneurial coach Damon Brown, here to help you as a side hustler, solopreneur, otherwise a non-traditional entrepreneur. You're watching Bring Your Worth TV Wednesdays live at 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time. You subscribe for free, and I am author of many, many books. Most recently, the complete Bring Your Worth collection. You can get it wherever fine books are sold. Listen to the audiobook right now, too, on this channel. And that is your wrap up for TED. This Sunday, 1:11 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, Vegas time, on Sunday. 3 power moves any artist can make. I'm so excited for this episode, as you can tell. It's going to be so much fun. I cannot wait for the conversations that come from it. I look forward to seeing you level up. So I will see you on Sunday. Thanks for the comments. Shout out to you, Carlos, as well as to all the TED speakers who made it a fantastic week. I know how hard that work is. Y'all are appreciated. Okay, I'll see you on Sunday. Until next time, wherever you can always bring your worth, you can always build from now. Take care of yourselves and others.